Hey guys, how y'all doing today? My name is Franchise Fanatic and welcome back to the channel. And today, for you guys, there's another review video. Today we're tackling the new Star Wars show, Star Wars Skeleton Crew. This actually just finished on Disney Plus a few days ago. I wanted to get this review out earlier, but, I am in school again, and then, I was doing other stuff. But anyway, it's here. So if you enjoyed this review, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new. It takes 1 second. It's free. Helps your boy out. Anyway, enjoy the Battlefront 2 gameplay. I'm going to have a link to the channel description of the gameplay as well as myself in the description. Want to go subscribe to whoever I choose. I wanted to record my own gameplay, but life happened. I had to clean up my hard drive. It was corrupted, so that's fun. But anyway, so Skeleton Crew, obviously, look, you guys know me, okay? I love Star Wars. I say all Star Wars is good. Now, does that mean all Star Wars is perfect? No, I have some issues with some of the stuff in Star Wars. I have issues with some of the Star Wars, right? But the, when it comes to most of it, you guys hopefully know this. I'm not a hater. I'm not a fake fan. I'm not someone who is, oh, this character's black, like all the other stuff. Whenever there's not a white male, half of the internet goes effing berserk. And I am not half of that internet, right? I genuinely love Star Wars, right? So, obviously, we had a lot of, 2024, we had a big year, right? We had The Acolyte, which, sadly, that did get canceled. They are releasing books, which is good. I'm assuming we're going to get a continuation of that show in a comic book or a novel or whatnot, but I genuinely enjoyed and loved The Acolyte. I enjoyed Bad Batch Season 3, and then, a few other things that I'm probably not missing. I didn't see the Young Jedi Adventures yet. I know it's canon. I don't know if I should or not, but, it looks kind of bad, but I don't know. I'll have to watch it and see. But and then of course we got Skeleton Crew, right? And it didn't finish in 2024, right? It finished in this year, but it was still a great show to watch, right? I mean, this is something completely completely unique and fresh to Star Wars, right? We've had ever since I saw that first trailer, and you see the kids, you see Wim and Fern and KB and Neil. It's really, really cool to actually see something like that in Star Wars, right? We've never seen a TV show, or at least, anything in Star Wars. Maybe, you can kind of say the Ewok show or whatnot, but I think that for the most part, this is pretty fresh stuff. And this had a very heavy 80s style E.T., Goonies, really crazy, vibe to it, which I thought was really, really cool. And I think upon watching it and knowing Jude Law was in it, and his name was like Jod Nana Wood or whatever, he had a bunch of these fake names. I'm going to try my best not to spoil the whole show because it is fresh on Disney Plus. So, I highly recommend you watch it on there. But I might cover a few basic plot points, but not the whole thing. But it's cool, just to see these kids and to see Star Wars in this new era, right, where you're on this planet at Aten. And it's kind of like almost like a California suburb, like GTA 5 Los Santos. It looks like that kind of effing world where people are walking weird-looking dog things, Corellian hounds or whatever they are. And it was cool. It was a very unique atmosphere and a unique story with these children and how they're trying to take this test and all that. And then, of course, they find the spaceship, in the earth, kind of like a bunker. And then, of course, Wim hits a button or whatever, and they'll fly off. So I did my first, little reactions to it when I think the first 2 episodes dropped. And my only real issue with the show for the first 2 episodes was kind of Wim's dad. He was kind of annoying. He just looked like Tyler Perry screaming and moaning and going crazy. When the ship takes off, I had a little bit of an issue with his acting. He was like, Wham, 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 wham. And I'm like, no. That's not what you should be doing. You should be screaming and kicking up dirt and effing going insane. Your son is in a ship headed to who knows where to do who knows what with who knows who. You know what I mean? He's not going to be like, wham, come back, wham. Like, no, I'd be screaming my effing head off. You know what I mean? Christ. And thankfully in the next episode, he kind of is a little better with that, and the droids are like, calm down, sir. And he's like, no, my son's up there. So some of that was all right, but that's really my only issue with the whole show. I mean, Christ. I think it's a really well-done show. Obviously, it will be, right? Lucasfilm they don't intentionally make bad things. So it's not going to be like, oh, the writing was downright awful, or, oh, the acting was trash. The CGI was horrible. You know what I mean? The plot made no sense. Like, you don't really even see that many people bitching online about this. Acolyte people were freaking out about fire in space and dumb crap like that. And yes, there has been fire in space in Star Wars before. Yes, that's not lore breaking. No, Kai-Eddie Monday's birthday didn't ruin the show. It's not, that wasn't even canon. Stuff like that. Really dumb things like that. Where people with 2 freaking brain stems rubbing together could figure it out, right? I know half the internet is brain dead toxicity garbage anyway, but it really is nice to actually, like myself, and I'm hopefully hopefully like you listening as well and watching, think for yourself. Media literacy is at an all-time low. People don't think anymore. They see a clickbait YouTube thumbnail, they watch it, they listen to it, and they go, "Oh, I guess this show is woke. Oh, I guess this show is really bad. I better not watch it." And then they're like, "Oh, it was actually pretty good when I watched it." You know what I mean? I had a similar situation happen to me with The Acolyte, with a family member. The family member was like, "This is gonna be trash." And I'm like, "No, it's good." And then I watched it with him, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, this is good, actually. I actually enjoyed that." So, yeah, people just don't think anymore. And you don't even see a whole lot of discourse and arguing about Skeleton Crew, right? And the sad part is that you don't see any people complaining because no one watched it. Yeah, The Acolyte had such a low view count that they canceled it because no one was watching it, right? Skeleton Crew somehow managed to have even worse ratings, or worse views than The Acolyte. And they didn't cancel it. So Acolyte had not as many not as many people watching as Skeleton Crew, yet they canceled Acolyte, but not Skeleton Crew. Makes no friggin' sense. I think Disney just honestly caved to the trolls and haters online with The Acolyte, which is a shame. They should never do that. If you have a story to tell your effing story. Don't let people, convince you otherwise. But I don't know where Skeleton Crew is going to end off, if they are going to make a season 2. But, like I said, this is a genuinely good show for the people that actually watched it. I know there's going to be one or two people that are like, it's actually really bad. But the consensus with most things, people that aren't on Twitter will tell you it's pretty friggin' good. You know what I mean? Like I said, Lucasfilm, they don't intentionally make bad things. And let's just start with the acting, right? The child acting in this show is freaking great. When I think of child acting, I think of, the first 2 Harry Potter movies. I know they're children in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, but they're like older kids, you know what I mean? I'm talking like when they're like 9 or 10 or whatever. And those first 2 Harry Potter movies, like Daniel Radcliffe, Rupert Grint, Emma Watson, they effing kill it in those 2 Harry Potter movies, man. They're genuinely really good child actors. It holds up even in 2025. You know what I mean? Like, it's good. Obviously, when you think of bad child acting, you think of my first thing would go to Jake Lloyd in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which he's not the worst child actor in the world, okay? I'm not saying that. But, yeah, he's pretty stiff. He's pretty wooden. I know a lot of that is the horrible writing. No effing kid goes, yippee! You know what I mean? That doesn't happen. Maybe, but I've never encountered it, okay? I'm going to be a teacher. I've dealt with students before, young students. They've never said, yippee! So, I don't know. Maybe if it happens one day, I'll make a video about it and tell you I'm wrong. But, yeah, some of the writing in the prequels just isn't up to par. Stupid little mistakes like that. So, yeah, he's not the worst child actor in the world, but... And obviously, people apparently thought he was, because he went to jail or some shit. So, yeah, people are just bad, right? And then, of course, you look at little Leia in the Obi-Wan show. I think she did great. Most of the child acting in films that I've seen, it's fine, right? Like, some of it's fine to very good, and then some of it is just, And thankfully, everyone in Skeleton Crew was great. I mean, obviously, Fern is the best. I think she is probably the best actor out of the kids in this show. There's some really genuinely good moments where I'm like, oh shit, like she has some really good range, Obviously, Neil is probably the brunt of the not as much because, yeah, the kid doing Neil is good, right? Like the physicality and all that shit, in the having I don't know, 13, whatever year old, a teenager, young teen in a costume like that is crazy, right? Like Neil's big blue elephant head, obviously the emoting part is CGI, but if you look behind the scenes, the kid's got a freaking Neil, head. Like Globey from the Harlem Globetrotters, you know what I mean? It's like that, and it's good. Obviously, you don't see him, he is playing a blue elephant, whatever his species is, so obviously he's going to get, the least amount of credit, but he still did a really good job. KB is great. I think she has a really good arc. Obviously Wim is, literally every single child in the main Skeleton Crew lineup, They all have a really nice character arc, and I'm not going to spoil what it is, because it's still a fresh show, but all of them have good writing and good execution and good action, good acting. I mean, really, like, the child acting in this and just the way that they filmed and shot and wrote these kids in the show is great. Obviously, Jod Nana Wood, Jude Law's character, he is mysterious, he is cool, he is pretty badass. Obviously, you could probably tell from the trailer he's pretty evil, but... that's pretty much common sense. I wouldn't even call that a negative because we all knew it. I mean, like I'm a guy that does voice. As you guys know, I can do like 50 some voice impressions, so I can tell when a voice is either really good or really bad in media. And I think the first episode where you see Jod in like the pirate outfit, and he's kind of talking to his pirate crew or whatever, I could tell immediately it was Jude Law's voice. Maybe that's just common sense, but I figured it out because I know voices. But again, maybe that's just something that my grandma will figure out. When I watch it with Nanny and Poppy, we'll have to see what they think. So, hopefully I didn't... Shit. I ruined it, but they'll forget. It's fine. If Nanny Poppy, if you're listening, just forget I said that. Anyway, so, it is good with the writing of the show and with this character, and it's, he is mysterious, and I'm glad we don't really get these crazy, unlike The Acolyte, which had like two episodes of backstory, which I loved. I thought it was really great. It fit. It made sense. I cared about these characters, and I wanted to know what happened on Brendock. You actually don't get a lot of that in this show regarding Jod, right? So you're kind of like, oh, who's this guy? Oh, okay, the show's over, and we don't really see his backstory too much. And the director literally said that they didn't give you a massive backstory exposition dump because they wanted to film it from the perspective of the children, and they, obviously being not innocent but more innocent than in an adult. And in an adult, it's hard to say. When you're like that, obviously the kids are like, oh, this guy's weird. Who is he? Oh, I guess he's evil, or I guess he's good, depending. But it's interesting that they chose to do that and not devote an entire episode or two to just Jod's backstory or whatnot. I thought that was well handled. Not everything in Star Wars has to be explained in brutal detail. Obviously, some people need that. Like I say, I love the prequels, but they're pretty easy movies, right? Like, you can be pretty stupid and get the story, right? I'm not saying they're for dumb people, but you can be dumb and clearly get what the hell's going on. The sequels, if you're an idiot, which we found out with 95% of the internet, they're idiots. Oh my God, who's Snoke? Palpatine? What? Right? A lot of people, completely hating on the sequels. They just don't apply logic and reasoning and use their brain, right? Again, I can go on for that forever. My opinion on that, but it's crazy that people just don't think. And yeah, I think that. We don't necessarily need all these crazy backstories and things blatantly explained to us, right? Like with Padme saying, "Anakin, you're breaking my heart," or Anakin saying, or no, Padme says, "I truly, deeply love you." It's like there's a way to tell the audience an emotion, or an emotion that a character is feeling without outright straight up telling another character how you feel. Through music, through shots, through acting, through actions. You don't have to say, Anakin, I'm scared. Anakin, help me. Anakin, I'm happy. Anakin, I'm sad. Anakin, I'm dying. Like, again, I'm not to shit on the prequels, but there were some instances where George, I guess, felt his audience was too stupid to understand what's going on and had to just straight up tell everyone what's happening. This show, yes, there are children in this show, but it's not a kid's show. Even the director and the people making it on record said it features kids, but it's not a show for kids, right? It's not a little kid, infant, toddler, fetus, baby show like Young Jedi Adventures. Young Jedi Adventures, it might be good, I don't know, but it is a kid show. Like, it's designed for preschoolers. That's not to say it's indicative of any type of quality, it's just that's what it is, right? It's like Clifford, which makes no freaking sense where you're making a baby kid show with lightsabers that kill people, but that's another thing. Apparently it's really woke too, so that's fun. But I think that with that being said, these kids are in real danger, right? Like, bad, crazy shit happens in this show, and there are multiple instances where I'm like, oh darn, this little, this 14-year-old, 13, whatever, 12-year-old might die. It's crazy. And yeah, there are stakes, right? There is death and destruction and swearing, and it's not a show for little kids just because there are kids in it. And I'm glad that the people said that when they were, doing their interviews. The Acolyte had some really trash-ass interviews where they're like, we're so lesbian, you guys won't even believe it. This is gonna be so lesbian. And I'm like, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't make an interview where you're talking about how queer your show is. Like, maybe talk about the action or the writing or the cinematography or all this other good shit. You know what I mean? So thankfully with Skeleton Crew, I don't think there's two moms in it, but that's whatever. If you're making an issue out of that, you're insane. They don't even shove it down your throat. Much like the Acolyte, but, whatever. But, yeah, I think that it is interesting that, yeah, there's no crazy politics. There weren't any real crazy politics in any of the Star Wars stuff in terms of real world, woke or whatever. If you're really digging, I don't know why you would even do that. It's kind of stupid. It's like people when they saw the Last Jedi Praetorian Guard fight and they paused it and they zoomed in ×8 magnification and were like, oh my God, you see that mistake? This movie sucks. And I'm like, oh my God, you guys have no freaking life. So yeah, there are instances where if you really wanted to break it down, maybe there's one inconsistency or whatnot, but really besides that though, besides the dad just at first being kind of a turd, just kind of an unlikable, weird, nerdy dad, obviously I'm not going to ruin what happens, but he turns out to be a pretty cool father to Wim, and I think that's cool. And again, all the kids grow as characters. Jod grows as a character in a way. The parents have play in it too, which is cool. The mystery of AT-AT is really great as well. The CGI is really great. That's pretty much been a consistency since Disney bought this franchise. You know, obviously you put your Disney money into anything, it's going to look pretty good if given the time and effort. And thankfully, I would say all the Star Wars shows, animated or live action, have looked great, you know what I mean? So that's good. But yeah, I mean, the acting is great, the writing is great, the action scenes are great, it's got a fun mystery element to it. Overall, I would personally say I like the Acolyte better, just personally. I think that, you know, it just told a better story for me. But Skeleton Crew is something that Star Wars, I don't want to say it needed it, because Star Wars doesn't really need anything, but, well, okay, no, we need more sequel content. But in terms of, like, a vibe, I don't really think we need a specific thing, but this show is fun. Like, this is way more fun to watch than Acolyte. I'm not saying it's better, but it's more fun. I think it's a really unique, good story, right? Like, there's booby traps, and there's mysteries, and there's violence, and there's action, and there's spaceship battles, and there's new planets, and funny moments, and I think that, you know, there's some really good character development moments for literally every single character, regardless of the planet they go to or whatnot. We get new species, and new characters, and new locations, and there's just a whole lot of new, fun things to the show, which I think Star Wars, I think, you know, it welcomes it. I don't want to say it needs it, but it welcomes it. You know, I welcome it. I think it's cool. We've never seen a Star Wars show like this before, and it's very unique in its approach, and I think they pretty much nailed it. I mean, you know, would I have changed one or two things in, you know, the finale, which I'm not going to ruin? Maybe. But again, we should judge media on what we got, not what we wanted to get. That's not how anyone should critique media. So I think that regardless of what art form that is, with music, with video games, comics, books, movies, TV shows, whatever, never judge something on what you wanted. Judge it on what you got. And what we got is effing great. You know what I mean? It's a really fun story. It's entertaining. And it has this almost whimsical innocence to it. And yeah, there is murder and death and swearing, you know, not like the F word, but there's mild cursing. There's just talking about spice, which is drugs. So there are mature things in this show. That's not to say it's not like, you know, it's not like it's a baby show, but when I say innocence, I mean that, you know, it starts out where they're just, you know, Wim and Neil are having imaginary lightsaber fights, and Wim is looking at his little Star Wars laptop and his tablet or whatever, and he's looking at, like, old Jedi stories, and, you know, Wim looks up to the Jedi in the New Republic, and he really wants to make a change and do something. You know, Fern is kind of the rebellious girl, and she's like, she's telling all these crazy lies and stories and all that. She's the rich girl. KB is, you know, very unique in a certain sense, and Neil is just kind of the innocent friend. And Neil is basically Rowley from Diary of a Wimpy Kid, right? He's kind of a nerd, but he means well, and I think, you know, every kid stands out. Jod stands out. There's a really good air of mystery to this show, and it really keeps you invested. And again, it's just, at the beginning, it's very fun and whimsical and almost magical in a sense. And then obviously it gets more dark and more violent, you know, as Star Wars pretty much, you know, is. It's called Star Wars for a reason. It's a war. Even when there isn't an ongoing war, it's still, you know, violent and there's action, right? So it's never truly innocent like Winnie the Pooh or something, but it has that feel to it where, you know, like it's a feel-good show, right? Like it gave me the warm and fuzzies, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sitting in the show when the episode 1 and 2 dropped, and this, you know, whimsy to it really kind of sucked me in, and then, of course, you know, as you keep going, the plot gets better and all that, and things really kind of come to a head, and it, you know, it's just fun to kind of find out what happens with AT-AT and these mystery planets and what's really going on kind of, you know, behind the scenes in a way. It's a really good mystery show, kind of like, I think the Acolyte did it better, but this is still really, really good in terms of wanting to keep me invested, wanting to see actually what's going on, and I think they really kind of killed it with that. So as far as actual real objective negatives, the dad in the beginning is a bit wonky. Maybe there's one shot of the CGI in the very beginning, very opening of the shot where, like, there's a guy in space. I noticed that was a little bit weird looking. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty much, like, there's not much to complain about, you know? I mean, it's not, the CGI was good for the most part. The writing was great. The acting was great. I love the atmosphere that it gives. I love the vibe it gave, right? Again, it was very kind of innocent at times. And it made me kind of feel like, literally, I didn't like the movie The Goonies, but you know, it gave me that sense, right? Like that sense of 80s nostalgia, like treasure hunting. It was really cool, and I think that was kind of, you know, a really awesome thing that Star Wars hasn't really dived into before. And then, of course, you get into the mystery aspect and the action and the cool new planets and characters. And yeah, the story is really good. It kind of wraps up in a really nice way. And obviously, sadly, this did not do as well as it did, even worse than Acolyte in terms of viewers. But I'm assuming we're going to get season 2. Obviously, you can wait a few years and then make a season 2 when the kids are older and they're actually like, you know, older teens or even young adults. I think that'd be really cool to kind of see where they're at and how the galaxy's been treating them and how AT-AT is kind of recovering from the end of the season and how different things are happening and how things are shaping up. I think it could, you know, really work. But as a season overall, man, I think they freaking nailed it. I think, you know, obviously, I'm not some kind of buyout shill or whatever kind of weird word you want to call me. I'm just an actual Star Wars fan who loves this franchise and gives all of it a shot, applies critical thinking, uses my brain, and yeah, if something doesn't make sense at first, I effing Google it, or I read a book, or I do some digging, and 99.99.99.8% of the time, right, there is a official canonical answer as to why I was confused about this. Very rarely is something like, oh, I didn't get that, and then it's just like, yeah, it was an objective error, right? Obviously, there are mistakes in film. No film is technically perfect. I get that. But yeah, I think that, you know, pretty much all of Star Wars since 2014 has been, in my opinion, almost flawless in a way. I genuinely loved it all, and I think it's going to get really great, and we're getting a lot more books and comics and video games and TV shows and movies. Star Wars is the farthest away from being dead, regardless of what crazy YouTube channel will tell you. Kathleen Kennedy just got awarded for being like one of the best producers of all time, so yeah, she's staying on, which is good. Again, I hate the woke stuff too, but I'm not one of those people that is like, oh, everything Star Wars is that, they killed my childhood, you know. People are weird. Star Wars, for some reason, has always been extremely toxic fan base. The fandom menace they're bad people. I'll just say that. They're not just dumb, but they're also bad people. And that's a whole nother topic. But as an actual Star Wars fan that you're watching and listening right now, and I applied my brain, and I thought about it, and I watched the show open-minded. I didn't let YouTube tell me this was a woke piece of trash garbage show, and you shouldn't watch it, and all this because there's a girl in it. I actually watched it, and I actually loved it, right? I think that's the case. I really think it's a great show. Is it my favorite Star Wars show of all time? No. But is it a worthy addition to the canon, and should you watch it and support it on Disney+? 110% yes. I think it's a really fun show. One of the most fun shows I've ever seen in terms of Star Wars, and I think that it's really unique in its approach and its execution as well. So tell me down below in the comments what you think about Star Wars Skeleton Crew. Have you seen it? I did order the Blu-ray on eCrater or Etsy or whatnot, just because they don't like to, put these things on DVD normally. But yeah, I mean, you do what you got to do as a collector. But I am still going to support this on Disney+. I try to watch most of the stuff on Disney+, even if I have it physically on media. Support it. You know what I mean? It's a really great show, and I think it's fun. It's entertaining as fudge, and I can't wait to see if they ever do make a continuation. But still, beside the point, I had a lot of fun. I'm going to give Star Wars Skeleton Crew from a 0 to a 10. I'll give it a 9.5. Really, I mean, truly, there was nothing actually awful about the show that would make me go any lower than that. If I'm really thinking an objective, it's not like, oh my god, the CGI in that one episode was trash. Oh my god, they forgot to add the planet, and they're just flying toward nothing. Right? There's nothing that crazy bad. So yeah, I think that they really kind of nailed it with the show. I hope it is successful. I hope they continue it. And yeah, man, as an actual Star Wars fan, it's sad to say that as an actual Star Wars fan. But yeah, I'm excited for the future of this franchise, man, and I'm pumped. I'm glad they made this show. It's very unique, and I had a lot of fun. Thank you guys, and we'll see you in the next video.